20 years ago today was Game 4 of the 2001 World Series. The D-backs were up 2-1 over the New York Yankees in the series and up late in the game. But after some late inning heroics by the Bronx Bombers, it went to extra innings, and the clock struck midnight, and it flipped from October to November as Derek Jeter was stepping to the plate. He hit a walk-off home run and was dubbed Mr. November by multiple people on the broadcast, and there was also a sign up there. So there's some controversy on who came up with that infamous nickname. One of those people, Michael Kay, longtime Yankees play-by-play voice, joins us now to talk about that game, the series, and when Derek Jeter became Mr. November. 2001, 6 weeks prior, was September 11th. Arizona, that's going through one experience through September 11th, but just, it being a couple blocks, a couple miles away from Yankee Stadium. What was it like in New York at that time? And what sort of, relief were the Yankees providing through that playoff run?
Well, I think they were definitely providing some kind of distraction at the time when we started playing baseball again after the attacks. The Yankees were in Chicago, and I just didn't feel the sense of it. It just seemed like it was so hollow. I felt it was somewhat disrespectful. And the guy I worked with on radio for 10 years, John Sterling, we called the games, and I didn't call it with any emotion, because I felt that if I got excited about something that happened on a baseball field that was being disrespectful to the families of the people that perished in the attack. So until we got home to Yankee Stadium, and I got a bunch of letters, that was back with snail mail, and they kind of scolded me. They said, no, you have to be the same way you were, because it takes us away for 3 hours from the realities of life. So I kind of understood at that point. I knew that the games were, a 3-hour respite from the horror of the world. And we just, I myself picked it up a little bit. And, when they kept advancing in the playoffs, you felt that it was a distraction for New York City, just a respite to get away for those 3.5, 4 hours where they didn't have to think about, what had gone on September 11th.
Mm-hmm. When it got to the World Series, obviously Yankees, one of the most decorated, if not the most decorated franchise in baseball history. How did Yankee fans, how did the Yankees view the Diamondbacks, who were a very young franchise at the time, just 4 years in, as their opponent for the World Series?
Well, I think it was probably the only World Series that I had, broadcasted where I felt that everybody was a Yankee fan, except for the people in Arizona. It almost seemed like they were a prop for the Yankees to end up getting the championship for the city of New York. And it wasn't fair to the Diamondbacks, because, they were a great team. And it's not as if the Yankees disrespected them. Hey, the Diamondbacks won the 2 games in Arizona in fairly tidy order. So the Yankees knew they were in a World Series right away. But I just felt that the Yankees had the entire country pulling for them, because they were looking at the Yankees as representatives of New York, which had gone through so much at 9/11. But that was the only odd thing. I think that the Yankees as a team really thought highly of the Diamondbacks, especially their pitching with Johnson and Schilling.
Mm-hmm. Talking to New York Yankees play-by-play announcer Michael Kay. He's on the Yes Network, also host of the Michael Kay Show on ESPN NY 98.7 and host of Center Stage on the Yes Network. So Game 4 in particular, Diamondbacks take that late lead. Tino Martinez comes in, ties the game in the 9th, and then Derek Jeter hits that walk-off. When you think of Derek Jeter with the Yankees, there are so many things you can pick out of the air of just the amazing things that he did and points in his career. But that home run in particular, where did that solidify him among the greats of the Yankees?
Well, you know what? He probably had gotten to that point already, since he'd already won, 4 championships. And in all of the postseasons, he really did play well. But ironically enough, I believe coming up to that at bat, he was 1 for 15. He was not Derek Jeter. He just was not having a good series. So, and he also fell behind in the count early. I think the one thing that it gave him was a nickname, the Mr. November. He really didn't have a nickname other than, Captain, which you would get in 2003. But the one thing with Derek that you never worried about was that things were going to speed up on him because of the enormity of the moment. So when he came to the plate in the 10th inning, you knew he wasn't going to be scared. He was going to be overwhelmed. And you almost felt for Byung-Hyun Kim, what a difference 20 years makes. If you think about it, think he pitched 2 2/3 innings, something like that. Closers don't do that anymore. And then he was in the next game and gave up another, crushing home run. But yeah, it was weird because Derek just slows things down. Throughout his whole career, I watched him, and I got a chance to see most every one of his at-bats. He never seemed like he was overwhelmed by anything. From the first game he ever played to the last game, he just rose to the moment. And in that case, he did. Now, it wasn't by any stretch a booming home run. It was right down the line. It was 314 down the line at Yankee Stadium, but it got over, and that did turn him into Mr. November.
You mentioned that nickname, Mr. November. I've heard there's almost a chicken or egg debate on who coined that first. You had it on your broadcast. There was, a sign in the stands. Joe Buck used it. Where do you fall on the history of who coined that nickname first for him?
Well, I'll be honest. I thought I did. And the Yes Network has played that game over on this Yankee Classics. And they twin up our radio broadcast to the television broadcast. So they use me, who I do the games on Yes, and John's voice, and they put that over Joe's voice. So I don't know what Joe said. To this day, I don't know what Joe said and when he said it, but I thought that I had said it first. But, just watching the broadcast again, I watched it like 5-6 months ago, at least the end. And the television did show the guy holding up the Mr. November sign before he hit the home run. And I actually noted it at the time. So then when he hit it, the first thing that came to my mind was, he is Mr. November. I thought that I had, it just came out of my mind, but I guess time clouds that. And I give credit to the guy holding it up, because he did have the sign, but he held it up before Derek hit the home run. So I think he had it ready for whomever would hit the home run once the clock struck midnight, because Derek was still in the batter's box a couple of minutes after the clock struck midnight. And I guess I parroted what I saw on the guy's card.
And it's rewatching it, it's almost eerie. The bells are still chiming when he steps into the plate and then hits that home run. One more question for you before I let you go, and I appreciate your time. Walking out of Yankee Stadium after that, they had just tied the series, pivotal game 5 coming up. Where did you feel like the series was going the rest of the way here in 2001?
You know what? It almost seemed like they were destined to win. They fell behind Oakland 2-0 and came all the way back. And they were not a great team in 2001. They were okay. And the year before, I think they'd won only 87 games and they won the World Series. So they were starting to go down just a little bit, that version of the team. But after they won that game in that way with Tino's home run with 2 outs in the 9th, and then Derek doing what he did, you kind of felt, well, momentum has shifted to the Yankees. This is just preordained. And then when you follow up what happened the next night with Brocious, I mean, it was absolutely amazing. I never thought they would go back to Arizona and lose those 2 games. Never did. And I give the Diamondbacks unbelievable credit to have the resolve to still not just give up after those 2 heart-rendering losses. I mean, it's just brutal. But they showed that they were made of special stuff to come back. And, even after Alfonso Soriano hit the home run in the 7th game, you figured, well, again, it's preordained. Hits that home run. I think it was off of Schilling, and you figure, well, that's it. They're going to win. And then for Mariano to blow it, and he's the greatest closer of all time. I always say this about that series: if you get a World Series, you have 1 unforgettable game, you've got a pretty good World Series. If you get 2 unforgettable games, it's great. 3 unforgettable games is unheard of. So games 4 and 5 were classics, and game 7 was a classic. And the funny thing is, all these years later, it's almost as if the Yankees didn't lose. I know that sounds weird, because it was great for the city. It took people's minds off it. They had 3 unforgettable games, forever games. They don't have the rings, but they have the memories. The Diamondbacks do have the rings.
Michael, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Great trip down memory lane for game 4 of the 2001 World Series.
You got it. My pleasure.